So good morning and welcome to Monkcase on Mondays. I am joined by Steve Scales. Now, those of you that watched the previous one, I think it was about 79 days ago, will realise Steve isn't in the shed anymore. So where are you today, mate?
I'm in ukactive Towers in central London today. Right. A bit of a change of scenery. Work with the team as well, so it's a fleeting visit, but I've gave the shed a bit of a rest.
Good for you. And I guess it's always good to get back in contact with a few people that may be there and just see what it feels like to travel and things like that. Are you still staying active? Are you still, because you're a bit of a CrossFitter, aren't you? You like that type of environment. But are you still staying active?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, last time we spoke, that I said that I was running and didn't particularly like it. I still don't like running, and I've stopped doing it. I'm lucky that the gym I'm a member at has kindly lent me a rower while it's been closed. Okay. So I've gone back into the 20-30 minute HIIT training now.
Excellent.
Absolutely. It seems to be, I wouldn't have said it's more enjoyable, but it's faster.
Yeah, absolutely. And it feels like less effort when you don't leave your home. When you go to the garage or something to do it, it just feels like it's closer to home. You don't need to put quite so much effort into doing it. You don't need as much time. So, okay. So, when we talked, you were just about to launch guidance documents and all of those types of things. And so much has been happening in the last 3 months. Just give us some background, give us some history, as it were, as to what we've achieved in this time.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, it feels, I think Tara mentioned it was 85 days. It feels like 85 years. It's certainly been a busy time. So I suppose when we launched the 4-stage strategy, the operational framework, the research, the campaign, and our engagement with government, and it was really setting the stall out. The operating framework we sent to government. We worked with government on it on the 7th of May. And broadly well received from the sector is that we felt it gave enough flexibility to remain commercially viable, to instill consumer confidence and to satisfy those key areas. However, I suppose as events began to unfold, is that we worked with government, public health officials. We brought some leaders from the industry who do operate lots and lots of sites from public and private through that system. And throughout the process is that we felt that it was in a situation, and this is in direct conversation with government, that it was good to go. It was good to go. And then naturally, I suppose on the 4th of July, it was apparent that there isn't a date as it currently stands as we're recording this, and a lot of questions that are there as well. And I think Tanny's letter that was sent a couple of weeks ago really hits the nail on the head. Of it's looking at, as a sector, we are very, very confident in our ability to ensure safety, both for the workforce and for the consumer, and ensure that is applicable to big and small boxes, public and private sector. Yeah. And you can appreciate the conversations that we've had in a couple of days before as well with government. The documentation itself was robust, is that going through the government process, essentially it had been watered down, not by us, by them. However, we need clarity. Why not, and what can we do? We need clarity on a date so that people can begin to plan and with adequate time. And I suppose this links to that strategy, is there's a level of support that the sector needs as well, and we have a discussion around that. The research also developed, so it was our record webinar, I think peaking at just over 670 people on the webinar, looking at the 3 areas, looking at pre-lockdown and the downward trends and unpicking that, looking at the lockdown period, home use, activity levels, looking at consumer confidence, obviously working with yourselves at LeisureNet, and then that predictive model, what is the sector going to look like on the other side? And some interesting findings, and again, with organisations taking that baseline, which is what it was always intended to be, and taking that into their businesses, is that there is opportunity for some quite positive recovery around that. Yeah. We launched a Fit Together campaign with digital and physical assets. So again, working towards instilling consumer confidence, and I think with regards to the assets, if I do say so myself, is looking at videos, looking at those sort of assets that we're able to give to members as a result of that is something that we hadn't probably ever done. It's probably raised, and we continue to engage with government.
Yeah, and you know, there's a load of stuff there, and you almost skirted over the stuff around furlough, around lease costs and things like that. That lobbying activity behind the scenes to ensure that the Treasury listened to us around our challenges around furlough and the different types of employment activity that goes on within the sector. It must have been, well, A, fascinating working within those environments, but B, quite satisfying to achieve that type of stuff at the level that you managed to operate at.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I suppose working in partnership across the sectors, one of the key positives that's come out of this situation is that there's a level of unity across the sector, whether you're small or employed or self-employed, working on essentially the modelling and the financial impact, taking into account different sector channels, was quite interesting. But the reason that we were able to do that was because of members' willingness to contribute towards that. Is that it's not me sat with a notepad. There's we can bring it together as probe and shape it. And then other things is looking at sort of measuring consumer confidence, because that is going to be paramount when we do get to reopen, against media stories and misconceptions that we've had to educate government with. We've had to work with the media to make sure that areas like sweat kept coming up, to respiratory disease, and also where you're fighting against the misconceptions where you've seen stories around open in October, is that was a possibility. Christ, it still could, but fighting against that and making sure that the way in which our sector is differentiated, because everyone is losing income, everyone is under financial challenges. However, we are part of the solution. It's social value. It's looking at our impact to the health of the nation. Has been a key message, and working with varying government departments, whether it's been with DCMS and MHCLG, looking at support for local authorities and in turn their providers, working with the Treasury, looking at feeding into the furlough scheme, because ultimately we're a £7.7 billion economy that Tara corrected me yesterday that in the wider sector employs nearly 600,000 people. So a lot of jobs, a lot of people involved in it. So on that route, and then when you're looking at supporting independence, you're looking at supporting sort of private sector is VAT concessions. You're looking at challenges that people were having with landlords around guarantees for loans that were being required to access government support. So the way probably I've described it there makes it sound quite complicated. It's not. It's intricate, but how we've been able to do that is, and I've said this time and time again, ukactive isn't people like me and Hugh that work for ukactive. ukactive is its member base, and people who contribute towards that allows us to paint a really accurate picture and understand the challenges that exist between public and private, between franchise and university sector and food, personal trainers. Is that there are intricacies that we need to make sure that we can provide a solution to support that, not just in closure, but when we reopen. That was very much a moment there, David, as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And the reopening bit, I think, is really important, because yes, there is a financial, but there's more to it than that. It's about proving that we can do it healthily, we can do it safely, we can also do it for those people that perhaps would never have crossed our threshold in the past, and looking at some of the opportunities to be much more effective in what we do rather than just efficient, and using maybe some of the money that you've managed to secure to ensure that we are much more open to the whole population and not just to the guys and girls that want to get fit, the 20%ers. So I think what you've done is really started to raise awareness of those types of challenges and make sure that we come back as a better sector than we were when we were locked down. Has that been a guiding principle for the whole team?
Yeah, absolutely. Right. I was having a conversation earlier on today, really. I suppose first guiding principle of the team, and this started from Dave to Steve and sort of carrying it on, is that the people that work for ukactive, the ultimate profile is you have to love the industry. You have to want to do better and see its successes, but also see its weaknesses and want to improve them, not just point it out saying that's not very good. Is how can collectively we drive that forward? And then I suppose the profile of physical activity and health is always a key agenda item. I think what this process has enabled us to do, and that's been through unity, that's behind a common goal, is this isn't about saving on PPL. This is about the brand efficacy towards physical activity. It's not about ukactive. It's not about competing brands. It's a rising tide raises all ships, and I'm sure that's been said before a few years ago.
No, absolutely. So the bit that I'm particularly interested in, because we've obviously done these surveys, we've done 65,000 fitness, we've done 47,000 swimming lesson parents, and what comes through in all of this is around consumer confidence. We've done some sentiment work on it around what people are concerned about, worried about, and what the answers are. The opportunity that we've now got to start measuring customer confidence, once we start reopening, once we start seeing where it's working, seeing if in areas where the R number is higher, does confidence go down, and that type of stuff. I think it's just a fascinating opportunity. Is that something you guys would like to support?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think taking it back a step to the research that was produced, that essentially we did certain elements and brought it together, but it was a meeting of the minds across the sector. It was the work that obviously yourselves had done with my customer lens, data hub, survey that Alliance, and essentially what we're able to do is through different pieces of work that were brought within a consistency, we're able to get bigger sample sets, bigger insight, more sector channels. And I think coming out of this, we need to be able to understand throughput, but we also need to understand how different organizations are successful and why. And a lot of that will be reflected in consumer confidence. So obviously working with LeisureNet, working with Data Hub and the sector to ensure that we have a consistent metric to ensure and understand consumer confidence, because it will be different and people will be better than others. So the more that we can learn from that, the more that we can improve.
And I think that's the key for me. That we run the National Benchmarking Service on behalf of Sport England, and that is really about understanding who does what well and how, and then learning from it. And I think these types of things, when we start really buying into research and insight, this is a real opportunity to learn from the good practice and share that good practice. So really keen to work with you guys there. But you know, you've got a couple of minutes left, Steve. Just give me something that's really made you proud to be part of this sector in the last 70 odd days since we spoke before.
A willingness to progress and a willingness to show vulnerability. And it's something that I noticed that Craig Campbell mentioned, saying around you have to find best practice in this sector. What's been apparent in this time is that people have, for the most part, been willing to show where they're struggling and come together and work through it together. There's some amazing people that work within the sector, and a lot of the time the pieces of the puzzle are already out there, or if they're not, we can work together to make enough noise, enough evidence to change that. And looking, I suppose in retrospect over the previous times, is that the sector has come together, and it's forced partnerships that probably should have happened or were going to happen, and it's accelerated that. It's enhanced the understanding of where people fit within the solar system. However, as a sector, we need to capture that opportunity moving forward. It can't be doors open and back to the Wild West. That we keep that unity. And we've seen that working with Chief Executive Forum, sharing practice across who you would see have been the most aggressive of competitors historically, willingness as a supply network. And that's one thing that I really want to capture. I haven't seen a supplier trying to sell equipment. They're looking to help people. And if we can keep that ecosystem, in fact, we will keep that ecosystem moving forward, because we've got a collective responsibility to do that.
That's fantastic. Steve, thank you so much for your time. I know you're really busy at the moment. The work you guys are doing, again, from my heart, I'm so proud of being part of this sector, because it's just been fantastic, our response. So thank you again for your time, Steve. Take care, and I'm sure we'll chat again soon. Cheers, mate. Bye-bye.